point, he was able to see the world all around him meeting the same fate. Within a couple of hours, the world would be flooded, and everyone drowned, swamped by the crapocalypse. And as for Ian, well, it's to Ian's credit that as he fell from the sky, riding the detached bog like a porcelain rodeo bull, the final thought that went through his mind as he and his species were hurled helplessly towards extinction was,
why on earth didn't anyone think about unisex toilets?
And remember, listener, in the event of a crapocalypse, don't just look out for number one. Keep those eyes peeled for number two as well. Good night.
Very good night to you too. I, God was written by Sean Gray and performed by David Soul, Simon Day, Rosie Cavaliero, Alex McQueen and Dan Tetzel. The producer was Simon Nichols, and there'll be more apocalyptical adventures next week.
Hello, listeners of the radio.
This is the Comedy Club. Here on the radio.
Oh, it's a lot like Back to the Future.
Crikey.
Now, personally, I don't like watching the news in bed. You see such awful, sickening images that give you nightmares. So much so that I once dreamt about Alistair Stewart. Ugh, it was horrible. However, I will make an exception for twin presenters John Tweedledum and Jim Tweedledee, who present in-depth radio news analysis covering the latest stories happening this once upon a time. Written by Ian Hislop and Nick Newman, and from 2009, this is the News at Bedtime.
News at Bedtime.
This is the News at Bedtime with me, John Tweedledum.
And me, Jim Tweedledee.
Now, we all know that we should be eating healthily, but we're not. Especially you, Jim.
That's unfair. This is a carrot.
A pie-shaped carrot. So, while Jim has got his mouth full, let me tell you about this special edition of News at Bedtime, which will be focusing on the nation's nutrition. Joining us later in the studio will be food campaigner Jack Spratt, who's tackling obesity amongst the nation's school children.
My slogan is, eat no fat. My wife doesn't agree, of course,
But before we speak to Mr. Spratt, we're going over live to one of the first casualties of his campaign, the Wicked Witch, whose gingerbread house faces demolition. Mary, our contrary correspondent, is in the forest. What's the situation, Mary?
Good and bad, John. Bulldozers are waiting to raze the gingerbread house to the ground with a court order stating that the structure is essentially unhealthy and a danger to children. But the Wicked Witch is arguing that this represents an attack on her civil liberties, and she is debating the point with the contractors.
May you all contract boils. May your ears turn into those of an ass. May your hair fall out so you will all be prematurely bald.
No, not premature hair loss. Burn the witch.
Wicked Witch, it's Mary, contrary correspondent for the News at Bedtime. If I may just have a word?
Yes, my pretty. Come closer, child.
You have to admit that nutritionally, your house is way over the recommended intake of sugar, carbohydrate, E-numbers and ginger.
Oh dear, we seem to have a technical problem there. Mary has been turned into a frog. We apologise to listeners and we'll return to that story as soon as we've sorted it out. Jim?
With me now is Jack Spratt, the nation's favourite food campaigner or most annoying busybody. You decide.
Watcher.
Now, Jack, the Wicked Witch does have a point, does she not? And I am not just saying that because I don't want to be turned into a frog.
No. You want some good nutritional food in the kiddies' cake hole, not this junk rubbish.
So what would you propose?
Simple. You get courgette, bit of rocket, asparagus, your green beans, wazz it up, sprinkle of coriander, and lovely jubbly, boof, you got a vegetable house. It's fresh, made from good, healthy ingredients, and won't turn your nippers into porkers.
But let's be honest, Mr. Spratt. No children are going to be enticed into a house made entirely of fresh vegetables. It's unrealistic, isn't it?
No, it's just ignorance. Once they've tried a bit of the spinach roof, painted with a lovely oil and balsamic dressing, they'll love it.
Perhaps I could bring in a pro-gingerbread house campaigner here. The Tooth Fairy. You and Mr. Spratt have crossed swords on this issue before.
Mr. Spratt is in the pocket of the Greens lobby and he's trying to put us hard-working tooth fairies out of business. If children are not allowed to eat teeth-rotting confectionery...
Shut up!
Then there will be nothing
Oh dear, Mr. Spratt is refusing the Tooth Fairy the right to reply by trapping her under his glass.
Don't listen to the Tooth Fairy. She doesn't even exist. Everyone knows it's your mum and dad.
I'll have to stop you there, as there have been developments back at the forest, and we can go back to Mary, our former contrary correspondent, who is now a frog.
No, I'm not. We've sorted the frog issue out, thanks, John, because luckily I've been kissed by a princess. She was a bit disappointed when I turned back into a journalist rather than a prince, but now we're thinking of a civil partnership. Nothing too fancy, just close...
Congratulations, Mary, but can we get back to the gingerbread house demolition issue?
No, but what I can tell you is that the witch has chained herself to a large stick of peppermint-flavoured rock, and I'm talking now to a spokesperson for Witch, the consumer organisation who published the magazine What Witch. How angry are your members in the witching community about this war on gingerbread?
They're absolutely furious. I mean, what kind of country is it where an evil witch is not allowed to fatten children up using a confectionery-based dwelling and then eat them? It's bad enough we've been forced to display a health warning on the side of our cauldron saying, may contain newts, but
surely, no, you are being unreasonable. It has been medically proven that some children do have a newt allergy.
Apple?
Oh, thank you very much.
Mary? Sorry, another technical hitch there, as it appears that Mary has gone to sleep for 1,000 years. We'll be back after this.
And coming up later on Radio 40 Winks, the return of the popular quiz show, Riddle Me Ree.
Riddle me ree, riddle me ree. So here we are again with our regular team captains, Little Boy Blue and the Weasel. You know the rules, first one to solve the riddle gets a bonus riddle. Purple, yellow, red and green, the king cannot reach it, nor yet the queen, nor can old Noll, whose power so great. Tell me this riddle while I count to 8. So the clock starts now.
1, 2, buckle my shoe. 3, 4, knock at the door.
Come on, I'm going to have to hurry you.
5, 6...
Weasel, you popped just in time.
Is it a rainbow?
Yes, of course it's a rainbow, honestly. What do they teach you lot these days?
So, don't miss Riddle Me Ree tomorrow on Radio 40 Winks at 6:30.
Riddle Me Ree.
And they say that radio is dumbing down.
Or Tweedledumming down.
Point proven. You're listening to the news at bedtime with me, John Tweedledum, and the ever-amusing Jim Tweedledee. And tonight, we're asking, how safe is our food? Joining me now in the studio is Betty Botter.
Good evening, John.
Now, Betty Botter, you bought some butter, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. I bought some butter.
But you then claimed that the butter was bitter.
Absolutely. And what concerned me was that if I put the bitter butter in my batter, then it would make my batter bitter.
So, Betty Botter, why didn't you just get some better butter to make your batter better?
That's exactly what I did. I bought a bit of butter, better than the bitter butter, and put it in the batter, and the batter was not bitter.
So you think there should be a warning on every pack of butter saying that if you want better batter, then check that your butter is not bitter?
Otherwise, this government will have a major bitter batter crisis on its hands. We need to act now.
Cause for concern there from Betty Botter, better butter battler. Jim?
Now, is our obsession with food, our desire to find new culinary experiences, actually making us ill? It's not enough anymore to have cuds and whey on the menu or to offer customers a fishy on a little dishy. No, nowadays it has got to be more exciting. Down the line from his controversial award-winning restaurant, The Golden Goose, is top chef Cook-a-doodle-doo. Now, Cook, you're famous for wacky combinations of food, but this new dish has got you into hot water.
Oh, please.
What I'm trying to do is try and create novel taste sensations that will reinvigorate people's sense of gastronomic adventure.
But this pie you baked for the king contained 4 and 20 blackbirds.
They were free-range, locally sourced, fair trade.
And alive.
They were fresh. Very fresh.
When the pie was opened, the birds began to sing, didn't they?
Well, one of the worst things you can do with blackbirds is overcook them.
So why did health and safety close down your restaurant?
I have no idea.
Is it not because one of the live blackbirds flew off from your pie and then came down and pecked off the nose of a maid hanging out clothes in the garden?
Look, my understanding was that the maid's nose complaint was due to a mystery virus. There's no established link with the blackbirds in the pie. You might as well ban laundry or gardens. They're obviously extremely dangerous.
Thank you, Cook. Though some of our listeners may find that excuse a little hard to swallow. A bit like the pie. John?
Well, you are the expert on pies, Jim.
Are you saying I'm fat? Is that what you were saying?
No, not at all. I'm merely suggesting that if you were on a seesaw with Marjorie Daw, then there wouldn't be much actual seesawing going on.
If we are going to descend into a slanging match, perhaps I should raise the issue of the pot and the kettle.
Yeah, leave my friends out of it.
Oh, yeah!
And with the time coming up to a long, long time ago, it's Thought for the Day with Peter Rabbi.
Hello, John. Hello, Jim. You know, everyone these days goes on about healthy eating, and we all think that it's good to eat lettuce. But let me tell you a little story about my old dad. He was a vegetarian and ate nothing but lettuce. And you know what happened to him? One day, when he was in Farmer McGregor's garden, happily munching away on some lettuce, Farmer McGregor shot him. Then he gutted and skinned him before Mrs. McGregor put him in a pie, leaving me and my sisters Flopsy, Mopsy and Cottontail fatherless. Later we heard that Farmer McGregor had cut off one of Dad's feet and turned it into a lucky souvenir keyring. Not so lucky for him.
Food for thought there, Peter.
Very, very good.
Oh, no, don't encourage him. Next thing you'll be on Strictly Come Dance to Your Daddy, My Little Laddie. And now the news headlines with Charlotte Greengrow, the Rushes-O.
I am Charlotte Greengrow, the Rushes-O, and here are the news headlines. Jim Tweedledee is rumoured to be one of the contestants in the next series of the hit celebrity reality entertainment show Strictly Come Dance to Your Daddy, My Little Laddie. Elsewhere in the forest, Mary, the News at Bedtime's contrary correspondent, has been put to sleep for 1,000 years. But the latest reports indicate that she's been found by a group of 7 vertically challenged diamond miners and put in a glass case. Those are the headlines tonight from me, Charlotte Greengrow, the Rushes-O.
We're looking tonight at healthy eating, and I'm now joined in the studio by 2 typical kids who wander around unsupervised in the forest, Hansel and Gretel.
Yep. Cheers.
Now, as representatives of the nation's young people who get into trouble with witches, what do you make of this proposal by Jack Spratt to replace the gingerbread house with one made of vegetables? Would you be lured into a cottage made of cabbage?
As if. Like we're certainly going to do that. Not.
So if the gingerbread house is demolished, what sort of house would you replace it with?
Whatever. Cigarette house, maybe.
Vodka shot house.
Yeah, like weed house.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to leave the interview there, fascinating as it is, thanks to Hansel and Gretel, and thanks to the producer for such an interesting booking.
Now, weather with Dilly Dilly from the Meteorological Office. What have you got for us tonight, Dilly Dilly?
Well, Jim, the Met Office has issued a severe weather warning, with heavy rain coming in from the west. Apparently, the worst hit area has been Gloucester, where several feet of rain have made puddles a major hazard for the emergency services. We're getting reports of a Dr. Foster who was called to Gloucester in a shower of rain, but he stepped in a puddle right up to his middle.
I don't suppose he'll be going there again.
No, never, he says. So if you're going to the Gloucester area, do watch out for puddle black spots and remember to take a brolly and a wetsuit. That's the weather tonight from me, Dilly Dilly.
Thanks, Dilly. And with the time coming up to tick-tock 40:11 by the clock, we can go back to the gingerbread house demolition site, where Mary, our contrary correspondent, is asleep for 1,000 years.
No, I'm not Jim, because miraculously, whilst I was lying in the glass case slumbering for 1,000 years, I received mouth-to-mouth resuscitation from a passing handsome prince.
Charming?
By name, yes, but in reality, no. Having woken me up, he proceeded to fall in love with my civil partner, the princess, and they've gone off to live happily ever after.
What's all this got to do with the gingerbread house?
Nothing. Just thought the listeners might like to know. Hang on! Destruction of the gingerbread house. There it goes in a cloud of biscuit and icing sugar. I can see glacé cherries strewn on the grass. I can see broken nougat John. I can see shattered lollipops. I can see the Wicked Witch looking distraught as she's dragged away by the security ogres. Excuse me, Wicked Witch, what are you going to do now?
I'm off.
Where will you go?
Somewhere over the rainbow. I'm emigrating to Oz. Now there's a land where people are more relaxed and open-minded, and a witch can go about her business of being wicked without being snooped on and harassed by the petty-minded bureaucrats of the health and safety fascists.
Well, good luck. Let's hope you don't get squashed by a big house landing on you from Kansas.
Oh dear, we seem to have lost Mary again. Her soul has been sucked out of her and placed in a small bejewelled bottle which can only be opened with a dragon's tear. The systems engineers will be working on that to try and restore normal service. John?
Just time to look at tomorrow's papers. The Nursery Times leads with Georgie Porgy held sexual harassment charges to be brought by girls made to cry. The Daily Fairygraph has Sorcerer claims apprentice schemes are a disaster. The Daily Mirror on the Wall goes for Jack and Jill to sue over hill accident. And the Twinkle Twinkle Daily Star has some more naked pictures of Lady Godiva on her horse. So no change there. This is me, John Tweedledum, saying good night.
And me, Jim Tweedledee, saying these jam tarts are delicious. I got them off this knave, I know.
Give us one.
Get off, they're mine. Oh!